afternoon. I'm Shawn Yao, and this is One News Now. Malacanang has confirmed that Metro Manila will be put under GCQ Alert Level 4 starting Thursday. Lynn Olivario joins us live from Parañaque to break down these new guidelines for us. Lynn, can you give us an idea on how this pilot run will be implemented? How is it going to go?
Okay, Sean, beginning September 16, the NCR will be placed under Alert Level 4. And like you said, this is only the pilot implementation and only for Metro Manila for now. While the rest of the country will still observe the current community quarantine classifications, the DOH will be the ones to determine the alert levels for the regions. And as MMDA Chairman Benhur Abalos explained, the basis or things to consider are the level of COVID-19 infections in each area and the number of hospitals.
All right. So for these areas that are under lockdown, who will be allowed to leave and enter under
Sean,
under these granular lockdowns?
Among those who will be allowed to enter or leave are healthcare workers, persons needing urgent medical attention, uniformed personnel enforcing the restrictions, those with emergencies, OFWs also, those who are set to leave the Philippines, and those who are returning home and have completed their mandatory facility quarantine. Sean, food and delivery services will also be allowed, but only until border collection points.
All right. So is it true then, Lynn, that only non-essential workers who do leave their homes will not be allowed to return until the end of the specific lockdown period in the specific area?
Granular lockdowns, which will last for no less than 14 days. Yes, my understanding is that yes, they won't be allowed to return home once they leave unless they are exempted. But the IATF is still finalizing guidelines on this.
All right, so we should expect even more guidelines to come out regarding this pilot run moving forward. Now, on to the business side of things. Which businesses will they be allowing to reopen once the NCR shifts to GCQ Alert Level 4 on Thursday?
Okay, restaurants, dine-ins will be allowed to open at 10% indoor capacity for fully vaccinated individuals, 30% outdoor capacity regardless of vaccination status. Personal care establishments, but only for hair salons, barber shops, and nail services, not including the other cosmetic and aesthetic services or those that can wait. They will also be allowed to open in a similar capacity, 10% indoor for fully vaccinated customers, 30% outdoor regardless of vaccination status. In addition, in-person religious activities will also be allowed in the same manner, 10% indoor for fully vaccinated, 30% outdoor regardless of vaccination status.
All right, and regarding curfew hours, I was just on Twitter before we went on air, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Does that hold across the entire NCR region?
Yes, Abalos said that instead of 8 p.m., they're moving the curfew hours to 10 p.m. to 4 a.m.
All right, and what about cash aid? A lot of people are waiting to hear about this. Will the government be providing aid to residents in areas that will be placed under granular lockdown?
Okay, Palace spokesman Secretary Harry Roque said DSWD has an ongoing program called the Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situations. And the approach that was also agreed upon by the mayors is a shared responsibility. They will be giving food packs and not cash aid. They will be giving food packs to areas that are subject to granular lockdown.
All right, so they will be getting food packs and not cash aid. Very clear on that. Moving on now, Lynn, to another issue altogether. Why is the president barring cabinet members from attending congressional hearings? What's the rationale on this?
Okay, the cabinet members will first have to clear the invitation with him before they could attend the hearings. President Duterte said he's not questioning the authority and power of the Senate to investigate in aid of legislation. His concern is they call on so many persons for the investigation, yet they only subject the resource person to questioning for 4 to 7 hours. That's what he said earlier. And while other DOH officials, he said, we're just there doing nothing. He said Secretary Duque has sometimes not been in control of the workings of the DOH because he spends most of his time in the hearings. If President Duterte thinks the invitation is only meant to harass or berate the officials in front of the Republic. He said that he, as the head of the executive department, will not allow it, especially if he thinks there's an abuse of authority there or exceeds the authority of the reasonable time that Congress conducts a hearing. And as to whether he will issue an executive order, Secretary Harry Roque said that the president could and that there is a legal basis for that.
All right, loud and clear. Thank you so much for all those updates. Lynn Olivario reporting to us live from Parañaque. Thanks, Lynn. Stay safe. And the OCTA Research Group expects COVID-19 infections to rise continuously until the end of the month. Professor Gov't told One News's Agenda that daily COVID-19 cases could hit up to 30,000. But David said that they are hoping the trend will start to go down from that point. He also noted that COVID-19 vaccinations do help in slowing down the reproduction rate of the virus.
It's possible hindi natin maabot yun, Sito, but it's in place. Pero 30,000, possible naman yan na we could see that in one day.
And the Department of Education said they did not encounter any major problem or issue in yesterday's opening of classes for the school year 2021 to 2022. Undersecretary Nepomuceno Malaluan gave this assessment on Radyo 5's Filon, where he claimed that there is not much confusion on the side of parents and students as they have grown familiar with the blended learning setup since last year. However, he did admit that there remains to be some issues in terms of modules because some schools have grown dependent on printed ones, while the DepEd has decided to digitize all learning modalities. Internet allowances for teachers is also one pressing concern. However, Malaluan did say they are already trying to address this issue.
Sa pangkalahatan ay ang tingin natin ay maganda dahil wala naman kaming natanggap na mga yung malalaking problema at issue. I think this is because mayroong kaunti na tayong karanasan from last school year.
Setting the scene for us, how is the first day?
Million learners already registered, not including
All right. Meanwhile, Education Secretary Leonor Briones told One News's The Chiefs that more students are expected to enroll even after the official start of classes. These students will be added to the 24.6 million that have enrolled so far. Meanwhile, Secretary Briones also admitted to facing challenges after hailing the opening day of school as a success. The Education Secretary also denies that schools had already been closed for a year, as alleged by critics.
Nag-lockdown ang mga schools at that time in April. And I would like to correct the impression that our schools were closed for 1 year. That is not necessarily correct because we closed school in March. And then April, May, you had 2 months vacation that was perfectly legitimate, perfectly legal. And then by October, first week of October, we opened classes. So I'm wondering where that impression of 1 year closure of schools is coming from.
Let's now take a quick look at today's other top stories. The government is eyeing to expand the COVID-19 vaccine rollout to the general adult population by October once supply becomes stable. President Duterte says the poor will be prioritized once the general vaccination kicks off. President Duterte wants all cabinet members to seek his approval first before attending any congressional inquiries. Duterte said he will not allow his officials to attend these hearings if they will only be harassed or berated. British rock band Coldplay will be collaborating with international pop sensation BTS for a new single called My Universe. The much-awaited song is set to drop on September 24, which is a part of Coldplay's upcoming album, Music of the Spheres. For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Masks on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.